So this here is Melvin, my ÉCORCHÉ, and I made this 2 summers ago in Florence. I went to Florence to take a course in ÉCORCHÉ. What is ÉCORCHÉ? Well, the word ÉCORCHÉ means in French flayed or skinned, like a skinned or flayed corpse. And the purpose of an ÉCORCHÉ historically was to study anatomy for medical purposes, but also for art. And studying a flayed corpse is something that goes way, way, way back. We don't have solid evidence, but we think that they were even studying flayed corpses in ancient Greece. Those beautiful sculptures made in ancient Greece, human figures that are so anatomically accurate. How did they do that? Well, we believe that they really studied anatomy. We know for sure that in the Renaissance, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, they were definitely studying corpses. And the method was to take a corpse, to actually cut through the skin and peel away the skin, and then to look at what was underneath and to document it, peeling away further and further, peeling away the skin, peeling away the musculature until they got down to the bone. And as they did that, and as they studied it, they had a much better understanding of the human body. So today, artists studying anatomy, there are many different ways of doing it, but building an ÉCORCHÉ, so that's what I did here, building this, I was told, is one of the most useful and effective ways for someone studying art to learn about the skeleton and the musculature of the human body. At the Florence Academy in Florence, this is usually done for full-time students. It's done over the course of a year, every Wednesday night. Like for a few hours, they have their ÉCORCHÉ class. In the summertime, they offer ÉCORCHÉ, which is a 1-month-long course, and it's 8 hours a day, plus 3 more hours usually of independent homework time, where you're in the classroom after school hours working away on your ÉCORCHÉ. Building this thing was one of the hardest things I have ever done in my life. I didn't really know what I was getting into. We were warned that it was very challenging. There were about 10 students in the class, and the instructor, Maudie Brady, was fantastic. She would start every class with a lecture, with slides showing us examples of actual human bones and body parts, and then she would demonstrate on her mannequin what we were going to build that day, and everything was measured to the millimeter. She'd say from the plumb line, it's going to be 45 millimeters out from the plumb line, and that's where you're going to add this muscle, and it's going to be 7 millimeters tall. And that was for every single bone in the human body, even the hands, bones of the hands. And then so what we did first was we built an entire skeleton, okay? So this guy was first just a skeleton. And then when the skeleton was complete, the next part of the course was building all of the musculature on half of the skeleton. So this side remained the way it was originally, and then on to this side, all of the musculature was built. And I have to say it was very effective. I learned so much. I learned how many ribs the human body has. It's tiny things, like previously, before I did this, when I was drawing the model, like drawing the nude model in a life drawing class, you just kind of assume like a hand is small, right? Well, when we were building the ÉCORCHÉ, she pointed out how big the hand was, and I mean, you just think like, oh, this looks kind of big, but the truth is, in most cases, your hand is as big as your face. Would you assume that your hand is, look, and try that at home. But when you're drawing, you just assume like head, hand's got to be smaller. No, like it was really revelatory One of the wonderful things that I learned in this course was something very subtle. Maudie, the instructor, pointed out. She kept saying, like, really look at the subtle beauty of how the bones and the muscles kind of sweep around each other. This muscle here on the neck that starts actually behind the ear and then sweeps around the neck and ends up at the sternum, at the clavicle here. That curve is so graceful and beautiful. And she said, pay attention to that while you're building it. It should be graceful and elegant. And here it is. What is it? Yeah, it's the sternocleidomastoid. That's what I thought it was. that name stuck in my head, the sternocleidomastoid, because that's this big muscle here on the neck. And it's right here. And the thing about, so something like this, where, you know, you might think neck and you think neck, like a tree trunk, and it's not, especially when someone like me is given the task of drawing a model that's standing in front of me and their head is turned. Understanding what a little shadow is coming from because of how this muscle is moving is so important. I might not draw every tiny detail of the skin and the bones, but just giving a hint of it in the shadow makes the drawing accurate. This is not something that is 100 or 200 years old studying this. It really goes so far back. We know there's a sculpture, there's a marble sculpture by Michelangelo of Moses. And Moses is holding the tablets with the 10 Commandments on it, and his pinky is raised. And when the pinky is raised like this, there's a group of muscles over here that move. Watch right here. Do you see these moving? This is flexed just from raising my pinky. So in that sculpture where Michelangelo's holding the tablets and his pinky is raised, this muscle group here, the way it's sculpted, is so accurate that we know he studied that. Like, we know that he had an understanding of this. And that was something that these Renaissance artists took pride in. They showed off what they knew in something as subtle as this. So looking at this écorché, I mean, a lot of people might look at it and think, oh, it's kind of creepy. It's like a skeleton and a body without skin on it. But for me, it really, like, when I look at this, I just think knowledge, studying, and the depth of knowledge that goes back hundreds, thousands of years with both people in the medical field and artists. So at the end of the month, the écorché was finished, and then we had the option of shipping it home. And because this was being shipped so far, Melvin got a little banged up on his way here. He got a dent in his head, he's got a dent in his chin, he's got a big dent in his rib. There are all kinds of things that are wrong with Melvin. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm actually repairing him with the same clay we used. Maudie gave me some clay to bring back. This is the same clay that we used for the sculpture. The great thing about the clay is that it's not air drying. It's an oil clay. So this is still malleable, and the way we worked with the clay is the clay was heated up under a heat lamp, which makes it much softer. And then when it was warm, we would take it and sculpt in little bits. There you go, Melvin. You got your chin bone back. Now, when we were doing this in class, we had our lectures, and we had actual sort of resin skeletons and bones that we could study. The classroom was fascinating. Nice big classroom, beautiful light, and all kinds of resources to look at. So we were all like looking at bones and skeletons, and then we would come back to our sculpture and build. And when we were unsure about something, because this wasn't drawing the human body, we're building it in 3 dimensions. So for example, let me show you the back. The vertebrae, like building the vertebrae on this was so hard because it's 3-dimensional. And the tricky thing was you have to understand how the vertebrae fit together. So in the class, we actually had skeletons, and we had parts of the skeleton. And have a look at that vertebrae, his spine. So every vertebrae was numbered in our textbook, and they're not all the same, because as the vertebrae start up here and go down the back, they change shape and size. These are the vertebrae. So this was such a fun thing to do. As I said, it was really challenging, but the purpose of having this knowledge is to be able to apply it to painting and drawing. And I know this is going to be, for me, a long journey, learning how to confidently paint and draw the human form, but studying anatomy this way was a very big part of my journey. And now that I have Melvin home, safe and sound, he is going to go under a glass cloche. Because this is oil clay, if I just left him out in the open, dust would settle on him, and you can't really take the dust off of it. Once dust gets on this, it's kind of covered and caked in dust. So I figured I would put him under glass. I found an antique glass cloche, a really big one, like blown in the 19th century. And unfortunately the base was lost, so it came with this just a really ugly, modern, roughly hewn base that they just put the glass on here. And I had a new base made to the shape and size of that antique glass cloche. And this was made, if you watch the video of Castorina in Florence when I was there in Italy, Marco Castorina had made this specifically for this ÉCORCHÉ, and it was shipped over here. They also shipped me, let me show you what else they shipped me. I'm so excited about this. They made this for me. I've always wanted an hourglass for when I practice harp, because I practice harp an hour each day, and I thought it would be so much nicer to not set the timer on my phone, to actually just go like this and every now and then check in with the hourglass. So these beautiful lacquered wooden pieces came from Florence. There you go. I have a lot of work to do, a lot of finicky work to bring Melvin back to his former state of glory when he was perfect. Look at this dent in his head. But once he is all resculpted, he will go under the glass cloche, and I will reference him when I'm studying the human form here for painting and drawing.